Tonight's show is made up of 133 micro episodes. Will Frank survive? Find out! Star Trek Weekly starts now!
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin!
You know, I just always look for excuses to find a song that somehow ties into the episode. With 133 micro drums and one extra big one, yikes. We figure, or I figured at least, I don't want to blame them for my musical choice. Little Jump from 1984 by Van Halen. Welcome to Star Trek Weekly. I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ. Making her triumphant return, Kari Lane at Kari D Lane.
Yep.
And the other end of the desk for those watching on YouTube, Frank Moran at
Happy Go Jackie!
And if you are watching now in the chat, please, or if you're watching on YouTube, chat along with us. And if not, leave some comments. We have some great comments from our last episode, which I'll make sure we get to tonight. But where to start? Not in the chat, not with Van Halen. No. Let's start by talking about this episode, which I thought was a very compelling sort of pause on the storyline, and you know, we'll see y'all in a couple months, and a little something to think about. Yeah, exactly. So a little bit, probably about 7 weeks until the show comes back. Kari, we'll start with you, ladies first. Your thoughts on the episode as a whole, and we'll get very deep into the specifics. But
very dramatic,
yes,
in a good way. Like moments are like, no, I don't want this to be happening right now.
No,
in a good way. Like,
yeah,
in terms of like, it's compelling
way.
Storytelling that you were feeling for these characters, and by now we all are like, we care about all of you. And
there's some wide range of emotions throughout the course of the episode, because there were some like, like ass kicking moments, which personally I enjoyed. Frank, what did you think?
I enjoyed it. Watching the episode, and then as it got right at the end, you know, as we'll break into it, there things that are said that you're just like, okay.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah, so of course, if you're going to hang a lantern on that, we can only surmise what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so let's talk about, so the episode starts basically right where last week we left off, and the planet Pava was so kind as to invite the Klingons to a little soiree to hang out with the Discovery, and the Discovery, under very stern orders, all Federation ships have to retreat. And I think for about a second, maybe we thought that Captain Lorca was actually going to follow orders. But instead, he's like, well, we're gonna go like super slow warp, give ourselves some time to try and figure this out, and see if we can crack the cloaking device, which, by the way, they started really referring to it as a cloaking device in this episode. There was like one invisibility screen, and then it was always a cloaking device. So I think that they're like, all right, we get it. It's just, they know what it is. It's fine now. Frank, what did you think of Lorca's plan? Like, we're going to go really slow to try and do the thing we're not supposed to do, but if we can do it right, then we'll spore drive Black Alert right back there and try and save the day. That's
a nice way to do. I mean, you've got that time thanks to the spore drive.
Yeah.
You can afford yourself that time to try to think of another solution, and you have nothing lost, nothing gained by doing that 3 hours and then jumping back instantaneously if need be. I did like at least that they name checked that the Starfleet, the Vulcan Admiral, I believe he may have been.
Yeah.
That very agitated.
Yes,
and I did like they called that. Like, yeah, he was really worked up in that in his message to Lorca.
About as worked up as you usually see at Klingon. It's not usually any more than that. I mean, unless it's like Pomfar. But you know, generally that's basically like trashing a hotel room, throwing a TV into the swimming pool, like that level of agitation. Kari, what do you think about the fact that they were able to kind of come up with a plan that involves, okay, so we can do this, but we have to go aboard the Klingon ship and, you know, kind of sneak around. That seems a little dicey, but what did you think?
I wish they made devices that were a little more easy to hide.
Yeah, those.
I was like, they're huge and they make noise, so
I'm
surprised they didn't get found and moved and destroyed.
I was expecting something like the little spider tracers that Spider-Man uses.
Like little.
You know? You just like put them somewhere like on a bulkhead,
or even like palm size. But this is.
But this is almost like oh, I'm just going to go ahead and charge my laptop right here. And then the cord is like in front of the, and it's like, it's not in the way, right? But it's very much in the way.
Like the first room they hide it in, they kind of hide it. And even the second time when they had the second one, it's like, but I didn't really buy it, or I was like, that's a really big flaw in the design, but whatever.
And it has that bright blue light that shines when the second one gets
And
activated.
it also says, establishing contact with Discovery.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So there was no way to mute that?
No.
Like, you could turn off the ringer on your cell phone, but you can't turn that off. So, it's a good thing they didn't hear. They were so busy carrying on the Klingons that they did not hear that.
Yeah.
I think that, logically, it's fine. Obviously, Captain Lorca did not want Burnham to go on this little away mission. I think there were a variety of reasons. It may have been because she's a woman, but I actually don't think that this show tells that story in that way. I think it's just like, you're just looking for revenge and you're not going to think clearly. That was what I thought at the time.
Because I feel like Lorca has something in mind for
I was thinking that,
Burnham, that she's there for a reason. And
it's too dangerous to send her over there.
Only because
he has something planned for her later.
He get her killed and they lose out. So he's got an end game in mind, and Burnham getting killed this early does not help him.
That's what I thought.
I think you guys are right. I also think it was just he kind of like he's aware of the history, and he knows, who's on that ship and just her history with that ship. It's like, no, you're not. But yeah, I think that the biggest part really is that something that we'll see at some point this season in the second half was really the reason why. And of course,
but I do like that Lorca keeps a calm and cool when Burnham does kind of state her reasons.
Call
like,
him out.
Yes, he doesn't get all flustered. He just like kind of rolls with it. He goes, I'm not going to gain anything by putting up a big front here. I just got to keep.
He's like, you have made your case as to why you should go, so we're just going to go ahead and let you go. Now, sort of the other side of this mission is poor Lieutenant Stamets, who I can't even call Lieutenant Guy from Rent anymore. After watching him go through all this,
earned it.
He's really earned me remembering his name. 133 microjumps, and his boyfriend, the doctor, is just like, well, I don't approve of this, but go right ahead. And I was just like, really? I mean, I'm surprised.
I felt he knew he couldn't stop him.
Well, he felt like he knew he couldn't stop him, but he also, I feel like, should have known, well, you're going to drop dead. I'm surprised he made it through all 133. I expected the storytelling to be, he got to like 131, and then he like passed out and couldn't do it anymore. So then they have to try and figure out how to, do the rest. But
I thought he was gonna die before the end, or when they were like, if he's not dead yet, when they're like the final, I'm like, no, he's gonna be gone.
Well, wait till we really talk about the way that they really trumped up the end.
Or who he is gonna be no more.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's very much something that we're
well, I think they knew that wouldn't be the end too, because like as he was saying, like, I love you, I was like, he's gonna die.
Wow.
Like, he's gonna die.
I mean, look, I'm going to die. Just one more jump. Just one more jump. Just one more jump. Hey, we're going to go to the opera. It's like, okay, look, we've all seen that, the cop show where it's like, no, I'll be back. I'll pick the kids up on my way home from after my shift. Yeah, it's like, I'll be right back. Well, okay. And we'll talk about what does happen to him. But yeah, they're really setting us up for like, wait, I actually like him now. I didn't like him when episode 3, I guess, the first time we saw him. And in the 6 episodes since, I'm like, no, I really like him. And
the conversation between him and Lorca, as Lorca's proposing this plan to him, kind of saying like, yeah, you're not somebody that's going to want to stay back in some kind of lab somewhere. You want to be out here exploring.
Yeah, and just that part of the episode, that is exactly how he felt.
Yeah,
and. We'll explore sort of the later part of the episode how maybe he'd seen enough.
But it does start, I think, opening the crack to many people been chiming away in the chat about like, we're going to see the mirror universe. We're going to see that.
Well,
where we start seeing the pinholes.
And they even mention when when Lorca shows him, it's like, oh look, there's all these little spots to alternate realities. So yeah, it's all the stuff we're going to get to in the conversation. Everyone in the chat, and thanks for staying up late with us, chat. I appreciate all of that, all of you, and all of your comments. I'll try to keep an eye. And Kari, you're always better at keeping an eye. So if you see a really good one, just be like, oh my gosh, like. So anyway.
Nicholas says, super foreshadowing for Stamets' death, or at least serious injury.
Serious injury, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, or not even just like, I wouldn't even say injury is the right word, but
no,
like,
he's just in a different
death of who he
mindset right
is.
now. Yeah, I think
Or who
that
he was.
he still, has a pulse. He still has
Yeah.
brain function, but
He's not who he was,
not
yeah.
the same. It's almost like he's possessed in some way.
And we're not quite there yet, but leading into it, if we're there, is Tyler a sleeper agent for the Klingons? And
Well-
someone says yes.
I think that we definitely see something that might be the case, which was a theory that was floated when the character was first introduced. So
I was unsure of him back then.
Yeah, when Tyler and Burnham are aboard the ship, of course, they run into Admiral Cornwall and Laurel, who was the captor, and I mean, is lover really an appropriate word? I don't think that's really it, but companion, I don't, whatever their sick and twisted relationship was, she's there too, and obviously that sets him off, and that it factors in very heavily later in the episode. But of course, there's Admiral Cornwall, and I saw a comment in the chat that's gone now, but someone said, I'm sure that Captain Lorca was so relieved that they rescued Admiral Cornwall, sort of referencing back to how he
He's
was
glad she's not
none
around.
too disappointed to have her taken prisoner.
Yeah.
So
Actually, I was thinking that when he was getting the message about we're gonna award you, I'm like,
yeah.
oh, this one's gonna go down. Nope, nothing. All right, cool.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna give you the Legion of Honor and ask you to step down.
It's all
Nope.
good. Yeah.
So I thought that the sequence on the Klingon ship was interesting in a few ways because we see the very real effects of Tyler's PTSD, which
That was great that they showed that to get into that and not,
some really
go by
like graphic stuff in his
Yeah.
little flashbacks, and then including later in the episode some actual like Klingon nudity.
weird. Yes, that was strange.
I was just like, okay, that's another one of those like just because you can show it doesn't mean you should. I don't know.
But did
I
it
don't have
make
the
you
answer.
uncomfortable the way he probably is uncomfortable, and so then they achieved its goal?
Did it make me uncomfortable? Maybe I don't want to answer that question. Maybe you don't know how it made me feel.
You're
yeah,
like,
it did-
I liked it too much.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm very racist. I don't like albino Klingons. I'm sorry. It's just not my type, all right? You know,
She's
it's
not
fine
quite
for
albino.
She's not quite. That's true.
Yeah.
But I thought that the sequence on the Klingon ship was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did they find a good way to not use so much subtitle closed captioning. You know, just like, I'm just going to go ahead and leave my Universal Translator open over here. And this is a sort of minutia that we don't try to get too bogged down on, but their mouths are moving like they're speaking English, and it's not like it's coming out of the device.
Yeah, but
so
then we
they're
don't hear it twice. It
No,
blends.
it
It's
helps the
fine.
story. I get why you do it, but it's just like there is a little logic leap that you have to make there. And
it's like plenty of things where it's two characters from completely other countries or something, and then they suddenly start speaking English together, and you're like, no.
Yeah, but this did address that problem, and
Yes.
there was a lot of Klingon conversation, and which I thought it was a nice way to introduce it, was to say to Burnham, "You're speaking Klingon." It's like, well, not really. I get this thing, but I thought for a second, I'm like, okay, she could. I just thought she could speak Klingon at first.
Maybe.
I was like, okay, she has the Universal Translator, but maybe she.
Yes.
In addition to all of her many talents, she can also speak Klingon. So, in this course of her being on the ship, and obviously they're all over there, but she's really kind of the only one who's able to do anything. She has to plant the second blatant, very loud device basically on the bridge, but that's okay. We'll move past
Right
that.
next to everybody.
And she knows she has to buy herself some more time. So very wisely is, I'm the one who killed Takuvma, and probably very valuable. And then, of course, you can't challenge a Klingon to any kind of fight and have them be like, no, we're just going to go ahead and put you in the brig anyway. So I thought that sequence was great. And the fact that she really held her own against the Klingons, or the single Klingon, really.
I was wondering about that battle, because I'm like, well, she clearly has no weight dominance over him, so she'd have to use agility and speed and, use his weight against him.
Yeah,
Which she did a good job of
I
that.
think she was probably, a minute or so away from getting killed, but she just knew she needed to be energized and go away.
Oh, that was epic, her jump.
Yeah, I know.
So good.
I know, that's and it's something that they used to worry about in older incarnations of the show, that if they have to slow down your velocity, but they don't ever talk about it anymore. But it used to be a thing that they'd actually you know, or there's an infamous like, oh, they discharged a phaser right before they transported up, so we'll have to, you know, negate that. But Frank, specifically, your thoughts of the whole sequence on the Klingon ship, from the rescue, the duel, to the harrowing nick of time transporter beam.
No, I thought this executed really nicely, and just curious to see, because there really isn't a moment, and I guess there really isn't time, but like Cornwall realizing that Burnham's the one that's rescuing her.
Yeah.
There's really no moment like, hey, yeah, I was ready just to ship you off back to prison. I was really mad at Lorca for keeping you around. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, she knows who she is, and it's like we know sort of what her reaction must be. It would have been nice for a moment, but yeah, I guess they felt like it sort of wasn't genuine in the actual moment of the show to be like, well, I guess I'm glad I didn't get rid of you, you know. But she clearly has to feel that way because that's who rescued her.
And I feel like also like with you forgo just rather having everybody speaking English and losing the captioning, only because for an emotional moment like that, I don't think you want to be distracted from the actors' faces by reading dialogue, kind of getting taken out of the emotion.
No, it's a good point. You really do get to concentrate on what's going on in there. And as Philip Allard Rouse says, Burnham never intended to win, just wanted to give it some time. Exactly. Yeah. So I think she did that very well, because she knew that they needed to do their 133 micro jumps, but they also had to get both Admiral Cornwall and Tyler out of the brig. So
and their plus one.
And their plus one that she was not aware was about to come on along for the journey.
The execution of the micro jumps, though, just from a visual
looks so
that looked really cool.
Beautiful sequence, I think.
That's another one of those ones where I'm like, how much money did they spend on the show exactly?
Yeah.
You know, because, there were a lot in here. Yeah, the micro jumps looked really cool, and the fact, like, when they were initially, in order to goad the ship of death. That's what they call it, right? Yeah. Yeah. To get it to cloak, they, you know, it would do a micro jump, photon torpedoes, another micro jump, more. You know, so
it jumped
that
around.
was just like, it was so fast. And it, you know, it's when you come from a storied franchise like Star Trek, where you have a lot of slow-moving miniatures, you know, and I'm not even talking about only in the original series, you know, kind of for a while. Just to be able to do that is so great. And it's sort of the reverse. You can do it, so you make it work into the story so that you can show all this really fast stuff. That's the opposite of Klingon nudity. I was very glad to see so many cool effects.
Yeah, sorry, I was like, ooh, that's a good question. Patrick in the chat says, is Tyler a Klingon? And DYGZ says yes, and Teresa says he might be.
Well, I mean, he could be, because as we know, Klingons have had their appearance modified to look a little bit more humanoid, so it's not impossible. I think the sleeper agent, as a result of torture, I think that is a more likely scenario.
Can he be... Because could there have been modifications to him afterwards, or he be infected in some sort of way? That's what I was thinking.
I think either of those are very possible.
Yeah.
Frank,
like it felt like it's in him, and she kind of was like, I'm not going to let them hurt you.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, and also letting him know that very soon something's going to happen. So, Frank, what do you think about sort of the whole storyline, and do you have a theory? Could he be a Klingon? Let's start there.
I don't think he's a Klingon.
Yeah.
I think that's...
I was just thinking it's possible because
Certainly.
but I don't... It's not what I think is the most likely scenario.
It was, 229 days that he was put under this these circumstances. So the way that you could program somebody up to do what you need to do when you want them to do it.
Yeah, I mean, on day 2, you could have gotten me to do anything. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, I don't, you know, I don't need almost a year, you know, but that's why I'm not in Starfleet.
Can they turn him into a Klingon?
I don't know that you can really do that. It's more like to get him in like a Klingon state of mind, which, by the way, is my favorite Billy Joel song, Klingon State of Mind.
Right.
You should all make sure you listen to it. But to get him in a Klingon state of mind, I think they can do that.
Okay.
And have him be sort of a believer and, you know, in the cause, really. But
I thought he made some of the bad stuff happen at the end of the episode. Because he disappeared.
Oh, that's interesting. So what specifically do you think he made happen?
I don't know, but when things were starting to go wrong, I felt he sabotaged something.
Right. I mean, I think that was all Stamets just...
No, I later thought so, but then I wondered, because I'm like, where is he?
I think he's just...
We did see him at the prison cell, and we saw him with Burnham, but I felt there was some time in between that maybe he could have done something.
It's very possible.
Not to his knowledge, maybe.
Yeah, I think that he is a sleeper that has yet to be activated. So I don't think he's done anything, but he just seeing her again really set him off, and there's a lot of confusion going on in his head, and he doesn't quite know what to do with it.
Because when he's talking with Burnham at the end of the episode, basically saying how he tried to survive that 229 days was by getting her favor and doing whatever he needed to do to prolong his life, but doesn't quite say that it turned into like a sexual sort of relationship, more just of a torture.
Oh, that's what he was saying.
In the earlier episode,
totally what he was saying.
The first episode that Mudd was in, that one, you got the impression that it was sexual. Because they actually kind of downplayed it, and it was almost like comedic, the way that they referenced that's how he stayed alive.
So awkward and uncomfortable.
Right, but it's still, I don't know.
Well, it's funny because it's a dude.
Well, yeah,
more
absolutely.
so than if it was a girl sex slave. Then you'd be like, oh, this is like, but it's a guy, so you're kind of, well.
It's a guy and a Klingon and a female Klingon, you know. So there's just something about it that it probably struck them to some extent amusing. But
well, and what we know of Klingon mating rituals, they are not they're very physical.
Yes.
Very rough.
Yeah, there's not. Well, I was gonna say there's not a lot of foreplay, but actually there is. Yeah. It's just not the way that we mere Earthlings tend to think of it. The one sort of nice little story point, character building for Burnham is that as a result of her duel with Call, I believe his name was, is that she gets back Captain Georgiou's, but they're not communicators at this point, so they're just her insignia, and it's like a dog tag. I don't even know exactly what you call it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's that sort of nonverbal look between her and Saru, and obviously sort of like a little like knowledge of like, yeah, you know, I kind of, you know, I did my part to defend, you know, get revenge basically. And I had every expectation that she was going to give that dog tag thing to Saru because she gave him her telescope. So it's like anything to do with Georgia, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to him. And I think it's good. I think it's important. That's important to her. I think
she's going to keep it for herself.
I think she's going to keep it, which I thought it was a really nice touch. What did you guys think?
It was sweet.
Yeah.
Do we see that as kind of a more of kind of reconciliation moment between her and Saru?
That's a good point.
The way they looked at each other, I couldn't. I mean, you know, not like everything's forgiven, but at least
but it's like, you know,
more even ground.
Yeah, I think it's like you're starting to at least get a little bit closer back to where we were before you were a mutineer, you know. I mean, which they, you know, look, they weren't pals, you know, but they had a professional respect, and I think that he's seeing that it's possible he could get that back at some point. He could have professional respect for her. Let's see. So we have all of those things happen. And then we have the moment that Kari alluded to, which is Burnham and Tyler talk about the time that he spent as a prisoner of L'Rell and who is she to you? And he's like, well, I think you know. But they like talk about it like for real. And I thought that was an interesting sort of exploration of his trauma, actual feelings, when I think a lot of it would be a lot easier to just sort of kick the storyline further down to a future episode and have him just be like, I don't want to talk about it. And then she'd be like, you don't have to talk about it. Sort of just, they dove in. It's kind of a very close moment. I thought that it was really nice. And I don't know, the fact that he feels like he can actually talk about it with her, it shows that they're getting closer, which means, of course, he has to maybe be a real Klingon, and that's why. No, I'm just. But I think that you know, they're definitely building a bond between them that will probably create some problems in a future episode. But
well, what I like about that earlier is when he first breaks down, and Burnham says, "You know, when I first met you, you just seemed to be able to brush everything off," and now saying that that's not really the case. That there are things that have gotten to him and still continue to get to him.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clearly a front because this always gets to him. And he mentions that, you know, he's had nightmares every night. So, of course, they were exceptionally bad on this night because he finally saw L'Rell again.
Which I guess in one way it shows like how you can deal with an issue. You can let it weigh you down constantly, or you can choose to at least have those issues affect you, but choose to at least present a different front, I guess.
Yeah, and he does say to Burnham, he's like, I found peace right here, and it's it's a romantic moment, which works well, but I think it just says a lot. He's like, you know what, like, yeah, I'm away from that situation that I was in. Yes, we have Laurel on the bridge, and it was traumatic to see her, but I have found some peace. So I think it'll be interesting to see sort of, they did a really good job where they left us with a lot of questions. One of the most primary ones being like, what is the deal? Like, what's going on with Tyler now? Is he going to be forced to do something, just sort of due to the conditioning from when he was there?
Laurel's, what she was wearing while she was incarcerated. Very interesting. I couldn't quite tell, like, those bands around her, were they supposed to be something that kind of constricts her movement, or are they just for
was it just
decorative
bad
purposes?
I
fashion?
didn't like it.
I don't know. I couldn't quite tell what those were, if it served a
Prison
purpose.
jumpsuit? Yeah, I didn't like it.
Do you think that they had Mr. Blackwell in the 23rd century sort of critiquing fashion sense?
Best dressed, worst dressed.
Yeah, so because
Well,
right
also-
now I think she would be worst dressed of whatever star date this was.
It looked awkward for her to move, and then also I felt like her hands and arms were just like down at her sides that she couldn't like. I know they have prosthetics on their hands, but it just felt so awkward in that scene.
It's true.
It looked awkward,
we've
felt
talked about
awkward.
this. These Klingons in particular, it looks like just sort of this
almost like
design. It's a struggle for the
They're
actors.
trying too hard to make them look so like extravagant, but then
Yeah.
that makes the actors not be able to function in it.
That's true.
But it's
I
like
mean,
you're trying to, because visually you're like, all right, cool, but then they move and you go, oh no, not so much.
yeah, even the more Klingon-like look that we had on Next Generation
Mm-hmm.
with Worf, it was still very functional because it was just a little bit of prosthetic.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, it seems like a whole. I wonder how long the prosthetics. I almost said the wrong word. Prosthetics
Yeah.
take, but. Maybe somebody knows. And how about some behind the scenes featurettes, for
yeah.
people who are paying for CBS All Access. And we're not saying we don't pay for it. AfterBuzz pays for it. The three of us don't pay for it. But if
We
had,
would appreciate it.
if we had each kicked in $2, we could have it.
That's
But
true. I will say that this definitely surprised me in the way that I was not expecting this to be kind of at least wrapped up so early in the season. That I mean, I know we're certainly at the mid-season finale, but I thought the Klingon War might have been more overarching, and not to say that it can't come back in the tail
No, and
end.
it seems like, I mean, that's why they're sending the Discovery to go basically, relax for a little bit, because the rest of the fleet is kind of gunning for them because they're already aware that this happened. So I think that it's definitely winning a very major battle, but I don't think that the war is over as of yet, but it's certainly something we'll have to see.
Did you like the little shout out to Decker?
Where was the shout out to Decker?
It was over the intercom. They were asking for, and I can't remember if it was Lieutenant, and I think it was Lieutenant Decker.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yes. So whether it is, I'm thinking of
Decker from Motion Picture?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, see, and I'm glad you caught it. Very mad at myself that I did not, because I love stuff like that. Like when we talked about the list of Klingon captains that Saru asked for, things like that. I love stuff like that. So that's a great touch, and I'm glad that Frank caught it. Well, let's sort of talk about the way that the episode ends, which is, as we alluded to, the big build-up of, I'm just going to do one more jump. It's going to, everything, and they laid it on really thick. I did like the notion that Lorca was going to give the medal, the Legion of Honor, to Stamets because
very
it's like
noble of him.
I feel like Lorca's kind of a what am I going to do with another medal kind of guy, but at the same time, it's like we don't get that done without Stamets, and he risked his life and did some irreparable harm. Even at that point, I think he knows it's like you've kind of really done a number on yourself, so I'm going to go ahead and give you that medal. I thought that was a very nice gesture, but at the same time, he's very quick to.
Can you do one more?
Yeah, it's like I would never ask you of that. Hint,
You offering?
Hint.
All right, cool.
Oh yeah, no, I'll do one more. Oh great. And he's like, but only one more. And
So save us all.
And that moment when he's like, just one more, that's when you're like, uh-oh. I just figured he's gonna drop dead. And it's more interesting that something very bad has happened to him, but he didn't just drop dead. So I thought that was very interesting. And he says something that it's like, I can see them all. The infinite permutations is something he says. And Saru references some Klingon wreckage that they see. And just ultimately, Captain, I'm afraid I don't know where we are. And as we alluded to, I feel very confident that they have gone to the mirror universe. Actually, what I think is that they've gone to the original series universe, and they've been in the mirror universe the whole time.
Somebody
and
actually
so
asked that. They're
this
like,
has been,
from the mirror?
and then that's sort of, and there were a few comments to this extent on last week's show. I want to give Shogun Orta and Beverius. They basically both said that they feel like the mirror universe has a hand in all of this, and that it'll explain sort of the tech discrepancies that Frank and I, who apparently, like, we harp on it a little bit, but apparently other shows that discuss this really harp on it and can't get past it. So I'm glad that that we don't spend that much time on it. And I think it's an exciting idea. It's a little bit of an M. Night Shyamalan twist where it's like, well, actually, we were in the mirror universe all the time. But it's still, it's interesting.
But it's a good twist because you're not like, oh, that's stupid, or I saw that coming the whole time.
No, I thought that there might have been something to do with the other mirror universe, but
someone says it can't be.
Can't be mirror universe because that's Terran Empire, not Federation. Sure, but this is, of course, that's actually a good point. But we don't know what changes, because you got to figure between the actual Star Trek Discovery storyline and the time we first see the mirror universe, it's 12 years. A lot could change. But you're probably right. I think that's an interesting theory, the one that I shared, that we were in the mirror universe. But I pose that because I feel like, Frank, you probably don't think that's what happened.
I don't know if I do, because I would think, and I don't know if I have this correctly, at least I think it was the Shatner novels, kind of speculated that the divergent point of our universe and the mirror universe happened when the Zephyr Cochrane landing.
Oh, okay.
And there was like, what Vulcans were welcomed, Vulcans were attacked. And that was kind of the divergent point. Yes, I believe that was, at least if I remember my William Shatner novels correctly.
Well, the key in the novels was, of course, whether or not Spock sabotaged the system. That's ultimately the difference. But
of course,
yeah, don't say that's interesting. But I do think that wherever they were at the beginning of the episode, they have now gone to the other side of
somewhere
the mirror.
else. Yeah.
So maybe they are now in the mirror universe, or maybe they were in the mirror universe. But I'm not the only one with that theory. But I feel like that's where. Do you think that's where they are, or do you think they're just further into space?
No, I think they're probably in the mirror universe. I could have bought more if they went from the J.J. Abrams universe into the Trek.
So from the Kelvin timeline to the Prime timeline?
Yes, I could have bought that more than being in the mirror universe coming to the Prime timeline. So, right now I'm going to go with just the mirror universe. I can't think if you're talking about parallel or alternate universes.
Right. I mean, we could also it could just be a different parallel alternate universe, not the mirror universe, just something where it's slightly different. Also, simple theory, they could be in the future, not way in the future, but they could just be somewhere in a different part of space that their sensors hadn't been to before. And the Klingon wreckage could be because maybe it's 2, 3, 4 years later, not ahead of the original series or anything like that. It could just be that simple. So it'll be interesting to see, and we would love to know the thoughts there in the chat, what you guys think. Nicholas Stormy says Infinite Universes. Sorry, what were you going to say, Carrie?
Sorry, I was just going to say, this is the second time somebody's pointed out that Lorca put in the manual override and did incorrect kind of coordinates. Somebody else pointed that out earlier.
Did he do that in this episode? DYGZs and somebody else. Sorry, I'm like Diggs Briarthorn.
But somebody else said it too, and I don't know because it's too far up. But they were saying how Lorca put in coordinates to an unknown location, so it's like an error on his part. But why he would do that's unknown. So that's very
from the captain's chair. And then Nicholas Stormy has the theory that Lorca is evil, which is an interesting theory. And again, that theory I don't want to rule out entirely, that Lorca is evil, because I still have a lot of questions about how everyone on his original ship died and he survived.
How he survived?
Why did he survive?
Is he from the other
universe? Diggs Briarthorn says this is not an error. He did it on purpose.
Okay, so he's malicious intent.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting theory, one that I didn't have. So that's why we open it up to the chat and we hear what everybody has to say. What do you think about that theory, Frank? Do you think that...
Well, I mean, certainly I feel like we've all had our issues or questions about Lorca and his motivations, and there's a lot not known about his history. So, I mean, I can't say he's all good, he's all evil. I definitely think there's a lot of gray in between. To which side he might lean towards, who knows? But I feel like there's a lot more about his motivations that we have yet to uncover.
Well, going back to the scar on his back, what if Lorca is from the mirror universe and he intentionally brought them back to the mirror universe? I don't quite know exactly why he would do that, but that's fine. I just have to put the theory out there. I don't have to make it work. It's just, if I'm right, then the story will answer the question. So it's just, and it's not even something I was thinking about it. Also, he doesn't want to let Stamets go. Well, that's true. It's the way that he makes this drive work and what makes him special. He makes a ship special, but as an extension to him. So there's a lot of questions that will not be answered next week.
No.
They will not be answered until, I believe it's January 7th. The commercial at the end just said January, but what I was poking around online, and granted it was Wikipedia, said January 7th is when the next new episode would air. So in theory, that's when we'll see it, but I guess I don't know for sure until they tell us.
And I can understand his rationale for not wanting to let Stamets go, but also I think he's smart enough to realize that Stamets is something he's changing. If not deteriorating, he is changing.
At some point, he's not going to be able to work that drive anymore.
Yes.
And you got to figure out, well, how do I get somebody else in there? He's not going to do it himself, but how does he find someone else?
Which why it'd be curious to see what his motivation was if he indeed punches in these random coordinates or these unknown coordinates. Why not get Stamets back to Starfleet to have him be examined to figure out a way to, is this reversible, so that way we can replicate this, and then you've got yourself a more renewable source of people to help pilot that spore drive.
Patrick Lanville's theory in the chat. He's thinking about the scene where Lorca displays the multiverse. Seems like Lorca wants to go home, which is interesting. So there's a lot of great theories. And see, this is why people wanted us to catch up with the episodes, because they have all these theories and nowhere to share them just yet. And let's see. Lorca baited Stamets to get him to do the 133 jumps.
Very true.
And Philippe says again, what we see on the navigation control, override Lorca, G. Man, people were watching a lot closer than I was. Spore jump 133, unknown. But that was jump 133.
I thought
so
that was
wouldn't this be
134?
134? That would be. Spoiler TV does say January 7th is when the show will come back. Thanks, Teresa. Cool. So, man, and I just watched this before I came over here. And I missed all this. And, I do take notes so that we can talk about it on the show. But I don't look away from the screen that much. It's a lot of, typing. And I'm like, well, that typo I'm not going to understand, so let me fix it. But I missed all of this. So, thanks. Thanks to everybody for helping me, have even less idea of what's going on.
And then the count error. They're like, So it's been 133 jumps and then the 134. But it was right before the final jump. Exactly.
Yeah.
I do like that they really, for the micro jumps, they really kind of, they portrayed that. You really get the sense of just the toll that it was taking. I thought they executed that really well. It wasn't like, we're going to start jumping, cut back. Oh, we're done now. Wow.
Yeah. No, and everybody's working really hard.
And changing the canisters. Yeah.
Yeah. And, this reminds me, though, everybody doing the canisters reminds me that there was a great Tilly moment earlier in the episode where she's like, oh, I'm so glad you finally told him about the side effects. And he's like, what side effects? And she's like, oh, no, I just Tilly'd, didn't I? Because, that's what I do. Not a lot of time for Tilly in this episode. There was too much going on. But I thought that was great that she had that moment. Anyway, so, look, we have all of these theories out there. And Nicholas Stormy asked, did anyone notice the scene kept saying mark, mark, mark after every jump? I think that's just a thing that you do is mark 133, 132 or whatever.
I thought it was titling.
Yeah.
Tilly was scared mouth shut? No, she says useful information.
Yeah. Tilly was just, she just can't help herself sometimes. And I don't know, I'm a big fan of Tilly, so it's all right. Anyway, so look, we have a lot of theories, and please keep them coming in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it, and we will get to them as we go along. We only have a few more minutes, though. And we want to talk about what is coming up, because now that we don't have Star Trek Discovery for the next 7 weeks, as we alluded to last week, we're going to do a bunch of other topics. So if you have ideas for topics for future episodes, let us know. And you can put those comments in the chat, for the chat for this episode after it's archived. You can tweet any of us. You can tweet me at Christian DMZ. You can tweet Kari at Kari D Lane. You can tweet Frank at Happy Go Jackie. But if it's something specifically about the show, probably tweet all of us, because one of us just might not see it.
That's true.
Tag us
Three
all.
of us, somebody's going to see it.
Oh no,
And-
we're on it.
Well, okay.
I'm pretty sure you're on
All
it
right,
too.
I'm on it, but look, honestly, like sometimes I'll look at tweets and I'm like, well, how did I not see that one? You know, like I'll just scroll back and I'm like, I just missed something entirely. But yeah, let us know what you want to talk about. But
Leave comments on the video.
as we and what do they always have to do? They have to give
Give it a
thumbs up.
thumbs up and leave a comment down below on
Down
the
below.
suggestions. Yeah.
But we teased this last week. So next week, our topic is going to be very cleverly named, a little tension grabby. I know what I'm doing. Are the J.J. Abrams movies garbage? That's going to be the title of the episode, and we invite everyone to rewatch the episodes. I do not feel that way, but I know a lot of people do. In
Wait,
fact,
JJ episodes?
the J.J. Abrams movies.
Okay, I thought I
Yeah.
heard you say rewatch the episodes,
Maybe,
and I was
maybe,
like,
but I mean rewatch the 3
movies.
movies.
Yes,
That's what
yes.
I'm going to do. I invite everyone to do it. Everybody
Okay.
on the panel, everybody in the chat. J Boy said, because I asked this question last week, yes, JJ's stuff is garbage. He's not alone though. Look, a lot of people feel that way. They have a lot of problems with those movies. I do not. Well, okay. I have some problems with some of those movies, but in general, I like them and I think that they're fun. But that's what we're going to talk about next week. So
Teresa in the chat says JJ verse sucks.
it's fine, Teresa. You're not alone.
Patrick, first JJ was fine, rest sucked.
Well, and but Frank don't believe it. I don't quite know what that part is.
Who knows? I might believe it. I don't know. We'll see.
You'll believe it.
Also,
Yeah.
a lot of people like the Stamets rent joke as well. He's gonna go see La Boheme.
Oh,
Yes.
It was very funny.
God, I hate Rent so much that I didn't even remember that. See, you weren't here when I talked about that. That, like, last week was really the time where I could have played a song from Rent. And I was just like,
yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. I couldn't. I had to stop myself. But that's actually very, see, that is very funny. And I completely missed that. So,
Well, it's just something really subtle and small, wasn't?
don't believe Tyler is Vok. I don't.
A couple people have been mentioning Vok, and I don't know how that's coming back.
I don't think that you can physically have Vok look like Tyler, but look, there's good theories out there that I've enjoyed sharing. I don't know that that's one of them, but that's all right.
Well, because Vok was left on the Giorgio's old ship.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
My apologies. But yeah,
Because I thought I had
And
it.
everybody's
so
like,
it's-
where is he?
yes.
Yeah, that's where he is. He's still like there's the drive.
still
Warp
there?
doesn't work. He's just hanging out. He's waiting basically. As a plot device for a future episode. That's the way I see it.
Sure.
I don't think he was turned into Tyler.
I don't think so either.
I don't think that was a year ago. That she left him behind. But
Maybe 6 months. Oh, some people brought that timeline up. They're like, well, yeah, it's like 6 months, not a whole year.
Because
interesting.
I would
Actually,
say, for the
that's
way
all-
the chat
yeah.
is going, they're surmising that they would transform, use some kind of procedure to make Vok look human, make him look like Tyler, then kind of like memory wipe him to make him believe that he is human, to be activated at a later point, and then put him in a prison situation, hopefully, and then try to capture some Starfleet personnel to facilitate a breakout.
I mean, interesting theory,
Maybe.
but I feel like it's a little convoluted, but we'll see. I wanted to. I said I was going to read some of the comments from the YouTube chat, which we always invite. Obviously, if you're listening to the show on iTunes, you can find the YouTube version, leave a comment there, or you heard us give our Twitters before. But Ghost World said, I definitely agree. Your open-mindedness and fair, balanced review of this without the bias and knee-jerk hatred is refreshing. Be hard on the show when it deserves it, but not just hate and bitch about it just because. Good job, guys. My only comment is about your setup. Is that camera recording the show low def? Is there any way you guys want to upgrade? And my answer to Ghost World was, this was a show you weren't here for, that Frank and I are far too handsome for high definition.
True.
We'd break the cameras.
Yeah, and that would actually lead to rioting in the streets because ladies everywhere and some fellas wouldn't be able to handle such perfect specimens of masculinity.
Yeah, very true.
And then we got a follow-up comment from Marcus Manar. Christian, you and Frank are two of my favorite AfterBuzz hosts. Parentheses. Kari's very good too.
Yay,
Oh,
thank you.
So
all right.
I didn't want you to feel like I'm just reading it. Yeah. But then he goes back to us. Sorry. You're both linear in your approach to whatever topic you're discussing, yet you both can be amusing, good balance. Better than many of your other colleagues. That's not nice.
now,
I
yeah.
like a little more maturity and discipline while still being entertaining. You must not watch my shows if you think that I'm mature. Then a completely different sort of comment.
very
I,
mature.
of course, made sure that I didn't run out of time to read the ones of people who loved us. Is there something in the current chat that we don't want to lose? I'll get to this one.
Firethorn. I like the last thing Laurel said to Vok. He will go to the house of Mokai,
Yeah.
and they will expose him to things he never knew possible, but he must sacrifice anything. So, must sacrifice everything.
everything.
So,
So
if
that-
it's your identity as a Klingon and become a human,
And become a human.
Yeah.
Look,
I could buy that.
also, Turnabout Intruder Patrick. So there goes a callback to an original series episode. So, in any
Okay.
case,
Maybe.
look, they're definitely building a case for a theory that when I first saw it thrown out in there, I was like, nah. But it'd be interesting. I still feel like it's too convoluted, and I still feel like they're saving him for something in the second half of the
Yeah.
season.
Now, because Philippe brings something here in the comment, and I don't know how you feel about it. He says, for me, the first 9 episodes are a setup for the real series.
No, I think that definitely the first 2 episodes and really that third episode that we talked about, it was sort of like a second pilot. I think those really set up for the series. I think that this is setting up for something big, and it'll be really interesting to see where it goes. But no, I feel like we're in the thick of the series now, and this is just going to continue to be a continuation of it. So the comment I wanted to read was from Beck28, and again, this was about last week's episode of Star Trek Discovery and our commentary on it. Saru's journey in that episode struck a chord with me in a profound way. I have anxiety and strive to achieve a sense of calm and peace in my own mind. To have that gift taken, or to have that gift given to you and taken away would be depressing and deflating. I know his affliction is fear and being prey, but truly this storyline resonated with me as someone who deals with anxiety. So I appreciated him sharing that, and I wanted to make sure we got it in there. And it's just an interesting way to think about something that we sort of were like, making a little light of the fact that he's from a species who's always terrified, but what the impact, interacting with Pavo, the planet as a whole, would be. Yes, Kari,
Rewind to a comment from a couple of videos ago when we talked about how Burnham is daughter, ward of, blanking on his name right now.
Sarek.
Yep. And apparently the way our show went, we said something like fake kids, and someone commented like, okay, well, nice, let all adopted kids know they're fake kids. And I was like, I was thinking about that during the episode because I'm adopted, and so watching it, I'm like, no, even though he's not biologically her father, he's her father.
Yeah, and look, I was definitely making light of the fact that, and I don't know necessarily that Sarek would really think of this, but he's making a choice between Spock, who
a biological
is
child
his biological
and an adopted
kid.
child, yeah.
And yes, to sort of offhandedly just say fake kids versus real kids, that's not what I meant. But the way, I was trying to put the idea as, the way Sarek's thinking was, if I have to choose between an adopted kid and my birth kid, it's still a terrible choice. But he sided with Spock, who is, what I said was real kid. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was not the way to characterize that. But the fault is really with Sarek for picking Spock over Burnham, especially the way it all worked out. And
I
he got
thought
burned
he
by
could,
it.
besides him being the biological child, I thought he picked Spock if only because then he's actually part Vulcan versus Burnham, who has none. So it would be the nature versus nurture. Are you genetically Vulcan, or have you been taught to be, and what would succeed? So
Yeah.
just wanted to touch upon that because we did read your comments, everybody. And
We
we'd
do
like
read the
to
comments,
get
and we
back to
comment
them.
we comment about the comments
Yes.
after the show.
Yeah.
Final thought from Patrick Lanville: Saru is very original, a cowardly main character. Speaking of cowardly main characters, I'm Christian Bladt. You can find me at Christian DMZ. I'm the only one, though. I'm just speaking for myself. Kari, where can people find you?
Yes, you all can find me online at Kari D. Lane, that's Karidlane, as well on Box Office Breakdown, which is right before the show at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Tuesday on Horror Movie News, and Wednesday coming up very soon is Vikings. And also Monday night is Marvel
Thank you.
TV News.
We'll
I
be
was
there.
like, wait, yeah.
We'll be there. Marvel Movie News tomorrow night at 10 Pacific, 7 Pacific,
TV
10
news.
Eastern, Marvel TV news. I know. I was
Yes.
trying to get it all in because I saw the countdown. It was like 7 seconds. And I was just like, I should have been more calm. Marvel TV news tomorrow night at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. And Frank, where can people find you?
You can find me cowering in a corner, hurriedly looking at social media. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie.
Courage. Anyway, we'll be back next week. And as I said, the topic will be, are the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies garbage? We will talk about that at great length. We will see you all next week. Live long and prosper.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.